Good morning. We are just about to start. My name is Anna Dolińska from the Institute of Public Affairs. It's a pleasure for me to welcome you. Today we're going to debate about Ukrainian artists, refugees on the Polish labor market. This is a part of the project implemented in the Institute of Public Affairs in cooperation with the Goethe Institute about challenges, opportunities, barriers, and continuing artistic activity abroad. We've got two ladies and they're going to tell us more about that. Obviously we're talking about artists that came to Poland after 24th of February 2022 as a consequence of the Russian invasion against Ukraine. This project is co-financed by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Federal Republic of Germany within the project line Bridges of the Future, Poland and Germany for Ukraine. So thanks to the grant we got from the Polish-German Cooperation Foundation, we were able to run this debate today, which will be moderated by Oleksandra Iwaniuk, a graduate of the Kyiv Mohyla Academy. The debate will be held in Polish and translated simultaneously into English, so if you need interpretation, you can take a headset. Oleksandra Iwaniuk has a PhD thesis on political elites, teaches at the University of Warsaw and hosts literary meetings at the Ukrainian House. So we're really happy that she's going to run today's meeting. So Oleksandra, thank you very much. And I'm really happy that I have this opportunity to moderate this discussion. I'm Ukrainian, and these topics are very important to me and sometimes painful as well. We're going to talk about limitations, difficulties, and opportunities to cooperate with artists, refugees from three different perspectives. The first one is the perspective of Ukrainian artists that are also refugees, and we're going to begin with that perspective. And then the second and third perspective, I mean representatives of institutions in Poland and Germany that are active in that regard. As regards experiences on continuing artistic activity in Poland after 24th of February, we're going to listen from artists, refugees, Nadia Mir, a painter, a PhD lecturer at the Kharkiv State Academy of Design and Art. She's also a member of the State Union of Painters of Ukraine. In 2022, she was added to the encyclopedia National Leaders of Ukraine, so she's also a leader, and we're going to talk about that in detail. Her paintings can be admired in 4 national museums of Ukraine. Since March 2022, she has been in Poland, where she organizes workshops on drawing from nature, still nature, for Polish and Ukrainian women, children and young people. She has realized an art project with young people, Warriors of Light, as well as an individual and group exhibition at the Modlinska Reception Center, and has participated in interviews on radio and TV. Since coming to Poland, she has been involved in numerous activities as a volunteer and intern at the Christian Community North, where she supports displaced people from Ukraine. The second artist that is here with us is Olena Kushnirenko, MA in Decorative and Applied Arts. She arrived in Mastrynium. I'm sorry. She arrived in Poland on 2nd of May 2022. She was born in Ukraine in the city of Belgorod on the Dniester River. She has been working in the creative industry for more than 20 years. Previously, she created dolls in Ukrainian costumes. Now she works in painting and illustration in the Petrikivsky technique that is also very popular and known in Poland. Talking about experiences of Polish cultural institutions in supporting and cooperation with Ukrainian women artists will be discussed with Monika Szewczyk, director and curator of the collection of the Arsenal Gallery in Białystok, working closely with artists from Ukraine for over 20 years. Yeah, that's correct. And Michalina Sablik, art historian, critic and curator at the Promotional Gallery in the Old Town Cultural Center in Warsaw, not a distant place, so we can visit Michalina Sablik. And now, as regards experiences of German cultural institutions in supporting and working with female refugee artists, we'll be talking with Hanna Brennhäuser, a consultant for the Eastern Partnership and special programs at the Goethe Institute, Ukraine, implementing projects with civil society at the interface of culture and international cooperation. Hanna Brennhäuser was previously based in Kiev before the 24th of February 2022, and she's a little bit fluent in Ukrainian, and she dreams in coming back to Kiev as soon as it's possible. So, as I promised, let's begin from the Ukrainian perspective. Please tell us a little bit more about your artistic activities before the war. Nadia, please. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and beloved Poland, good morning. I'm truly happy that I can live and create here in Warsaw. I'm very grateful for this to all the people of Warsaw. I'm a lecturer at Kharkiv State Academy of Design and Art. I work at the academy, and the online examinations are just about to take place in our Academy of Fine Arts. To begin, I'd like to express my gratitude to all the people of Warsaw for having given me this possibility to live here and for giving me a place to live, clothes, help, support, thanks to which I can live and also work and create. I'm able to perform my creative activities and work with women or with adolescents, and also run my exhibitions. I already did 3 exhibitions, 2 in Warsaw and 1 a month ago in Wrocław, in the Centenary Hall in Wrocław. And before the war, what was your work like before the war? Before the war, I was working at the Fine Arts Academy in Kharkiv, and I had my students, I had my studio, and together with the students, we were organizing exhibitions, international exhibitions and domestic exhibitions, artistic projects, etc. I was very active, and my students as well. Thanks for that. And Olena, please tell us a little bit about how your life changed after the 24th of February and how it was before the war. Good morning. My name is Olena Kushnirenko. I'm from Ukraine, from Bielgorod-Dniestrovski. Before the war, I lived in Ukraine. I was working in the art industry, and let me speak Ukrainian now. Until the beginning of war, for 20 years, I was concentrated on artistic activities. I was organizing workshops and exhibitions in Ukraine. Unfortunately, the financial situation of me as an artist was difficult, so I was forced to find some additional sources of income. And I used to work in a shop and in a factory. When I moved to Poland, I decided to stay, to live and work here in Warsaw. And I came back to my artistic activities. I ran many workshops in a very specific technique, as it was said before. I'm very grateful to the Ukrainian community as well as the people of Warsaw. They helped me. Thanks to them, I can work and continue my activities. I'm grateful. And that's all. Okay, let's continue with the presentations. Nadia would like to explain shortly why she chose this nickname. Nadia Mir is a nickname. Yeah, that's true. Nadia Mir is my artistic nickname, which means hope and the world and peace. So hope, light, and peace, which is the main theme of my artistic work. Thank you. And now let's talk about the perspective of the representatives of Polish institutions. Monika Szewczyk, can you please tell us a little bit about the history of cooperation of the Arsenal Gallery in Białystok with artists from the East? Thank you very much for inviting me. It's a very important thing to me. I'm not Ukrainian, but I'm very emotionally involved in Ukrainian matters. So I'd like to tell that our conscious cooperation with Ukraine began in 2005. Before, we did some exhibitions with Ukrainian artists, but in 2005 there was an exhibition done by Jurek Onuk, which was titled Barszcz, and it was a starting point of a greater cooperation. We understood that was not a question of a single exhibition, but a long-term partnership with artists in Ukraine. This is a long story. We've done loads of exhibitions. We've got works of Ukrainian artists in our collections. I was doing exhibitions in Kyiv and other places such as Düsseldorf or Tbilisi, exhibitions of Ukrainian art. But a breakthrough moment was when Poland held the presidency in the EU, which was in 2011. I got an offer to carry out a big project related to the presidency, a project with a big budget, big financing. And I was wondering which artist I would like to show, and I understood that that was a special occasion to show not artists that already were in the EU, but artists from the candidate countries. Well, at that time, we didn't know about the perspectives of Ukraine joining the European Union. I think that after the Maidan demonstrations, if Ukraine had been able to join the EU, when the world would like differently. Let me tell you a bit more about the beginnings, because this project defined our way of working. We did have financing. This project was exhibited in Białystok, but also in Krakow and in Kyiv in a huge gallery. And the scope of the project was six artists from 6 countries of Eastern Partnership: Ukraine, Belarus, Moldova, Georgia, Azerbaijan, and Armenia, and also artists from Poland, as well as curators and experts on art. So we organized exhibitions in our premises and also in the public space. And these exhibitions were organized together with concerts, workshops, many meetings. And we were thinking that we were just organizers responsible for giving space, support. However, the guests from the East, well, we cannot take advantage of them. We need to give them visibility and possibility to decide for them, because they were the real hosts of the meetings, and this is our rule, and we stick to that. We not only organized individual or collective exhibitions, we also organized some presentations, thinking that this journey to the East, this huge project, it made me understand that they feel orientalized, they feel used or abused even. Someone could ask, did you see art from Georgia? No? Then we can show it, and that would be it. We would be no longer interested. We showed something exotic, and that's enough.
Whereas what we are driving at is to return to those major sizable projects that can also serve as a form of a meeting. So for the artist in question, it's a chance to conduct a conversation. Perhaps Armenia and Azerbaijan are in conflict, yet during our exhibitions, the artists of both countries meet and talk. And in more of our projects, we prepared a special exhibition by the name of Deprivation, dedicated to the issue of immigration, all kind of issues referring to being a refugee. A lot of artists under the project were refugees themselves, had experiences of that kind. In Białystok, we also had experiences of the kind. We had 2 refugee centers, and in all our meetings, first and foremost, women would take part from, obviously, Chechnya. But I believe it was 2014, this fresh wave in the aftermath of Crimea annexation. And back then, the Crimea Tatars, but also Ukrainians living in the region of Crimea who came to Poland, took part in all our activities. And another major project attracting a dozen or so artists was a project done hand in hand with the Labyrinth Gallery from Toruń, entitled Granica, border or boundary. And recently in 2019, we prepared another exhibition, Stra. I deeply believe in the following function of the art, that artists are able to somehow predict the foreseeable future. Somehow they're able to signal the looming threats. So basically, we decided to harness the power of our intuition, that the times were turbulent, that we were living in difficult times. And back then, in 2019, the exhibition in question perfectly matched the atmosphere. I'm talking about all kinds of protests in Belarus, stifled by the regime of Lukashenko, and the artists from Georgia, Ukraine, as well as Belarus, everybody who participated, we all reacted very fervently to what was going on in Belarus, this fervent wave of protest, and it proved to be genuinely inspiring, and especially Dorota Swilańska from Goethe Institute was inspired because thanks to our cooperation with the Goethe Institute, we prepared a special exhibition that served as a presentation of independent Belarusian art. It was done in our gallery in Lipsk, and we opened it in our gallery, Arsenal. And it was exactly when the war in Ukraine broke out, and it was supposed to provide some kind of visibility to people from Belarus who somehow managed to remain independent and oppose the regime. When I was opening the exhibition, I felt that my friends from Kyiv back then were saying at the same time, dear all colleagues, it's good that we only have two brother nations. Obviously, the second brother nation was the potential threat from Belarus. At the same time, so exactly when the war broke out, my colleagues who are in charge of education used to travel to Shudziałów, a series of workshops that usually takes place in our gallery. Arsenal. We offer a lot of all kind of comprehensive education-related activities, but irrespective of that initiative, we prepared a special workshop in the field, because apart from this wave of refugees from Ukraine pertaining to war, apart from political refugees coming here to Poland from Belarus, we are also dealing with a humanitarian crisis on the Polish-Belarusian border. Not much to be done. We can only signal the issue, and when we were discussing the crisis in question, it brought it home to us that also the inhabitants of the region, of the Podlaskie region, have to suffer the burden of the crisis. They are constantly jeopardized. There is the army, soldiers surrounding them, and people seem to be divided by the crisis. Some people are ready to help the refugees, others oppose it, and this also affects children attending regional schools. So we decided to prepare special classes. I'm talking about abstract painting by Leon Tarasevich, but actually it was a starting point to discuss emotions, claiming that there are no negative emotions. It all depends on our mindset and perspective, how we define them. Do we stifle them? Are we willing to share our emotions? Is there anything that we can improve in this respect? And then the war broke out, and right now the project on the border is still in the pipeline, and it is terribly exploiting. My friends would go there in their own cars, and they were returning and just basically tears were welling up in their eyes. They were emotionally devastated. And again, we also have to mention the refugee reception centers or refugee camps that had to be established in the aftermath of this brand new wave of refugees from Ukraine. And here we also have to include the issue of children staying there. So again, we wanted to maintain the form of workshops that are done externally outside the gallery. We go to such centers, we try to work with children, and we also try to cooperate with the Ukrainian diaspora or Ukrainian community here in Poland. It's good to have your representative there. Last year, when it comes to the Ukrainian community or diaspora, it was Anastasia, a young woman who was organizing women's circles that were extremely supportive. And many of those circles were organized here, in our gallery. Katalina Lysenko, that's the artist whose exhibition we opened some time ago, an excellent Ukrainian painter. And at the very beginning of the war, she left Ukraine with her two children. And very quickly, we were able to organize her stay in Zielona Góra. Right now, she's residing in Vienna, where she is studying. But for us, it was such a great pleasure to be able to show her paintings, her exhibition. It was all created very quickly during the several months of her immigration. Perhaps I'll be able to show the paintings to you.
Prezentacja Warszawa. No przynajmniej tyle. W żółtym katalogu, tak? Aha, dobrze. Dobrze, tak. I teraz, przepraszam, ja zaraz bym... O, tutaj wejdziemy. Dobra, wejdziemy tu. Dobrze, to są prace Kati Lisobenko.
So Katia Lisobenko, these are her works. I'm so happy that the Museum of Art in Warsaw purchased one of the paintings from the exhibition. When we were preparing the entire exhibition, we realized that, of course, refugees would come here, perhaps visit the exhibition, people suffering from harrowing experiences in a state of trauma. So again, this exhibition could constitute another source of powerful emotions, yet it cannot be combined with any other series of paintings. So it was an independent exhibition. And in the second exhibition area, we prepared a special integration playground dedicated to refugees only and exclusively, with books available both in Polish and Ukrainian languages, all kind of basically toys for children, a lot of things to do in your spare time. And then all of a sudden it appeared that those women's circles organized by Anastasia, hand in hand with watching the exhibition, as well as making it possible to discuss the exhibition, express your emotions, express your tears, also share any kind of technical, very practical hands-on experience, like where to obtain a given certificate, what about the labor market, how to find your feet here in this brand new reality in Poland. It proved to be absolutely critical. And also, additionally, in my office, a psychologist, a Ukrainian-speaking psychologist was on duty, again, available to our guests should a need arise. Thank you so much. It is absolutely breathtaking listening to you. All the things, all your achievements are absolutely incredible. As I understand, 2005, following the Orange Revolution, there was this growing interest in Ukraine, and perhaps if back then Ukraine had come closer to the EU, perhaps right now we would be discussing totally different topics, maybe on a lighter note. Right now I'd like to address Michalina Sablik. What about the history of cooperation between promotional gallery Staromiejski Dom Kultury in Warsaw when it comes to all kind of artists from the East? Good morning. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so happy to be here. Together with me we have Kaja Verbanowska, and together we are in charge. We run Staromiejska Galeria in Warsaw. Our experience when it comes to working with Ukrainian artists is not that long-standing as compared to Arsenal Gallery when it comes to the time frame that I will focus. Actually, it's since 2020, a brand new team operating in our museum, which means that we constitute a brand new institution trying to react accordingly to all kinds of crises that come as a surprise, the so-called black swans, as you call it in economy, when it comes to our previous cooperation with all kinds of Ukrainian artists. During all kinds of collective exhibitions, we did have some kind of Ukrainian artists that lived here in Poland before and operated here professionally also when it comes to our academy. And let me bring you closer to our cooperation using the presentation, especially when it comes to what happened following the 24th of February 2024. You can see that's the Old Market Square, that's the building, and there are always three flags, really eye-catching. And when it comes to any activities to the benefit of Ukrainian refugees, they are pivotal in all our activities. Together with Kaja, we run the gallery. It is located on the second second floor. It is a relatively small institution, but I would like to give you a general picture of all kinds of activities on the part of Staromiejski Dom Kultury. When it comes to activities, to actions, it all comes hand in hand with what we try to present generally in our gallery. What are the beginnings? So again, we are talking about February 2022. That's the time span. We met with a group of managers, and together we were wondering how to best support all people coming here from Ukraine. And first and foremost, we had to consider the resources that we had at our disposal back then. So, namely, we decided that we have to react accordingly to the fast-changing situation, and we also had to redefine our agenda for the coming year, which meant that we were able to find some funds as early as on the 3rd of March, we already published some information, and we initiated a program of subsidies or stipends for artists coming from Ukraine. When it comes to how to qualify for the program, it was very simplified. You just had to produce a proof of crossing the border and just generally present your art-related and culture-related activity. 67 stipends were distributed among us, a one-off support. But thanks to this, we were able to build a sizable group, a base of people somehow connected to our institution, as well as a database of all the people who came here to Poland, divided by individual categories, who is in charge of what, who does what, so that we can address dedicated support later on. We also initiated a number of networking sessions and meetings to keep in touch with the entire group and to include all of them in our activities. And we also decided that probably what mattered most for us was not some kind of a social help, but making sure that those people would become actively involved in all our educational activities and promotional activities. My intention was to show a video to you, but unfortunately I'm not connected to the internet. We also worked together hand in hand with the Polish Center for International Help, and we connected Ukrainian artists with all kind of Warsaw-based institutions providing job places. It operated since June to March 2023, and more than 100 individuals took part in the program in 22 cultural institutions. We, as the employees of cultural institutions, try to encourage other institutions to provide jobs from Ukrainian refugees that would match their skills, competences. So a lot of people conducted workshops. Film directors were able to also find employment in all kinds of theaters. So more than 100 individuals were employed there. Unfortunately, the program came to an end. What seems to be problematic in all kinds of cultural institutions, very often those programs are short-term and not long-term, really. But some people stayed with us for longer. Obviously, our resources are limited, also the financial ones, so we cannot employ a lot of people, but we have Masha working for us in our gallery. She's been here for the last 6 months, supporting us in all kinds of workshops or translating documents, and she also conducts theatrical workshops.
And as regards our assets, our main asset is our building, our premises, which is fully equipped, and we're able to invite guests. So if someone comes up with an idea of a workshop, a concert, a meeting, of people like, I don't know, playing cards in Ukraine, so we were able to offer for free a space for such activities. There are still many bands, many groups that meet in our place. And as regards the gallery, we are co-organizing workshops of the LGBT choir from Kharkiv, and also a workshop for children. Here you can see a photo from 2 weeks ago, Ania Drzymała exhibition. And a part of this exhibition is a fairy tale audition. We translated that stories, that fairy tales into Ukrainian, and we also did a podcast. What is more, we opened a Polish language course for artists from Ukraine and Belarus, which is run by Karolina Szczypek, and she's a theater director, so she's related to art, to theater, and this course is profiled for people from the culture sector. Here you can see a photo from Konopacki Palace, an integration meeting, and cooking pierogi. We also have a department of literature in our Staromiejski Dom Kultury, and we digitalize and publish archives, because we also have a publishing house. We publish poetry. We also run literary residencies from 2021 for people from Ukraine and Belarus. Andrei Hadanovich is presented on the photo, and he's a Belarusian writer, but such residencies take place from 2021, and 8 to 10 people per year come as residents. We've got an apartment for these people, and we also offer them some financing so they can focus on their artistic work. We do it in cooperation with a KB institution from Krakow and another institution from Gdańsk, the Municipal Culture Institution from Gdańsk. In our premises also Radio Capital has its seat, so we do auditions, we do podcasts. My Friend Listen to the War was a podcast that we did together with some artists from Ukraine, and it was financed by the Goethe Institute, and I'm very grateful for that. You can listen this at the Radio Capital website. We also cooperated with the Free Speech Zone on a Migrart platform, a platform of migrating artists, and we also provide an opportunity to speak to Alisa Waszewicz or a Bliskids collective. We talk to them. And as regards the activities of the gallery, Anita Nemet, one of the curators of the Dear Future exhibition, receives a stipend, and we try to keep in touch with her. So one day she suggested an exhibition of Wasyla Liacha. I will be talking about that in a moment. And she also was a co-curator of an exhibition together with Julia Krivich, a Polish-Ukrainian exhibition. Here you can see the photos of the curators, and we're presenting that in the municipal space, Przestrzeń Miejska. In Warsaw, we were wondering if it was possible to think about the future in the context of war. So a futuristic exhibition. And the last project, and sorry for speaking so fast, this is Wasyl Liach exhibition from Mariupol, curated by Anita Nemet. So we keep in touch with the people who join us in February and March. And this is one of such projects. Anita approached us and suggested Wasyl Liach exhibition. He was a filmmaker, but after the invasion, he started to paint enormous paintings showing experiences of him and his family from Mariupol. You can see his parents helping an injured person in the garden. So it's very emotional, and it's based on his personal experiences. So these are the photos from the exhibition, and I really hope to continue working with artists from Ukraine. I think we are just getting started. So yeah, that would be actually all. Thank you very much. Yes, it's very emotional to see that photos and images, but let's continue in a happy way. Language courses and theater courses work so well that after that, these people, still being Ukrainians, they speak Polish as if they were native speakers. So thanks a lot. And now let's have a look at the perspective of German cultural institutions in supporting and working with female refugee artists from Ukraine. Hanna Brennhäuser will now tell us a little bit more about this perspective.
German cultural institutions in supporting and cooperation with refugees artists.
Yes, so I guess for me, as for everyone else on the panel, the 24th of February also made a cut in the work of Goethe Institute Ukraine, and our work was divided in before and after the start of Russia's full-scale invasion in Ukraine. So although, of course, our building in Kiev was closed quickly, we never stopped working. So this is important for me to mention that the whole team of Goethe Institute Ukraine has been working since 24th of February. Of course, in the beginning, the first and the most important thing to do was to make sure that our colleagues are more or less safe. But then, of course, we very quickly realized we have to continue working, and we also have to, we started to support it individually, people, our cultural partners, artists, the cultural scene in Ukraine, with some immediate aid scholarships, so they could either leave their towns, or they could evacuate their art or the museums, so they could individually decide how to use the money to be safe and to do. But then, of course, as the months went on, it also became clear that we need to implement some midterm funding for Ukrainian organizations and to support them to survive on the professional base, but also, of course, to keep their stuff and to keep their work going. So, and also thanks to the German the German Federal Foreign Office, the German Foreign Ministry, we received almost 12 million as a supplementary budget to support Ukrainian art and culture and also educational scene. So what we established, which I think is one of the most important parts of our work during the last months, was some program called a Stabilization Fund, which supported organizations in Ukraine, over 70 organizations in Ukraine, to keep working, to keep doing their cultural work. They could apply for grants, but not only inside Ukraine, but also abroad. So we also supported organizations in the neighbor countries as Poland, but also in Central Asia and other Eastern and Southeastern countries. If they wanted to do projects with Ukrainian artists and the cultural scene, or if they want to host Ukrainian artists, they could apply for the grant as well. And also only in Poland there were like 38 applications, and 23 organizations were funded by this grant as well. And the whole amount of the grant was 2.5 million, so it was a huge program to support all those great organizations inside and outside Ukraine that really wanted to keep working. And this was also our aim right from the beginning, that of course it was about, or it's still about in some cases, about emergency aid and immediately scholarships, but it's also about continuing the cultural work. Of course, there is a break between the work before and after the start of the full-scale invasion, but the need of keep on going and keep on doing artistic work is huge. I have seen people that are extremely productive right now. Of course, some of them also changing between doing voluntary work and cultural work. But all of them, of course, need support and also need the visibility. So that's what we are also trying to do. We are supporting with grants, but we also try to showcase Ukrainian arts and culture scene abroad. For example, there was a huge Ukrainian presentation at the Frankfurt Book Fair last year, a huge pavilion, almost like the second guest of honor, I would say, which was supported by us. There is a so-called Goethe Institute in Exile in Berlin, which had a focus on Ukraine also in October 2022, where there were over 45 events with 105 participating Ukrainian artists to also showcase the bright and the very interesting Ukrainian cultural scene to German audience. Because I guess different from Poland, especially the Ukrainian culture was not that much visible in Germany, and people would not really know about Ukrainian culture, Ukrainian art before the 24th of February. And of course, afterwards, we got a lot of requests, but people would still not know whom they could invite, how they could match with the respective artists or cultural people. So we also had played a huge role in actually bringing the right people together. So there was also a so-called matching portal where we could bring German organizations that would like to run residencies or stipends for cultural people to work in Germany, and they would search for the right people. So there was some kind of a matching portal where people could register, artists could register, and then they would be matched to German organizations. And we could really feel that there was a big gap or lag between the German cultural scene, and because they have never been very much interested, sadly, in Ukrainian culture, and then all of a sudden they wanted to do something, but they really had to firstly get to know with the Ukrainian cultural scene. So we also made some kind of an interface here. Maybe that's for now.
Yeah, I actually heard that Ukrainian literature is now so popular in Germany that there are second edition, third edition of Ukrainian reporters, war reporters and writers like Artem Czech, Serhiy Zhadan, Yuri Andruchovich, and this is amazing. This has never happened before.
Exactly, yeah.
Great. Thank you very much, Anna. A teraz porozmawiamy.
And now let us talk about difficult things that should be changed or could be made better, could be streamlined. You're very grateful, and it can be felt that you're full of gratitude. But let us talk also about difficulties, challenges, limitations and barriers, because such an abrupt change, moving to a different country and trying to do the same thing as before, it's terribly difficult. It's a terribly difficult experience. So I suppose that you needed to go through many difficulties. So please tell us a little bit more about that. And this is how we can see, we can feel that and work on that in the future. Nadia. Thank you for the question. I will be speaking Ukrainian now. I remember that time perfectly when I was crossing the border together with my son. It was the 8th of March 2022. I was completely lost. I didn't know what was about to happen. I had no idea about my future in a new country. Because, in fact, 10 days before moving to Poland, I left my home and was looking for... I left my home. I left without clothes, without documents, without any additional belongings. I spent a couple of days in the underground. And then we crossed the border into Poland. And already in Poland, we were welcomed by some Polish people, and they gave us food and beverages. They offered us help and support, and we went to Warsaw.
На квартире, где нам предоставили жилье. И прошло первое смятение от этой події. Ми почали с моим сыном, когда мы уже поняли, что нам ничего не угрожает, что есть еда, есть люди, которые нам помогут, мы поняли, что первое, что нужно нам делать, это социализация, и нужно помогать тоже тем людям, которым мы можем помочь.
I w ten moment, kiedy już
And then I remember that finally we were able to find accommodation. We had a clean, good-looking, secure flat, and we were wondering what to do in future. We decided that we need to return the favor, namely help the people who also needed some kind of aid in those turbulent times. And yes, indeed, I remember since we managed to open a new leaf here in Warsaw, we started our new life here, and we became heavily involved in voluntary activities. We became volunteers. We went to reception centers. This is what we were doing till the end of the year. And currently, we continue to act as volunteers. We also decided to join in all kind of artistic activities for refugees. So we participate in artistic workshops. This is what is especially close to my heart. I would like to underline that I'm so happy to be able to finally do what I really enjoy, what I am really good at. So it means that I was able to return to my favorite activities, namely all kind of art. Since last year, I have been involved in all kind of artistic activities, projects, and I try to support everybody who wishes to grow, develop, starting from children, teenagers, adults. So the mothers of the youth I mentioned. And what is really crucial is that I help to express oneself by means of art, to share your emotions, because in this way you are able to process this very harrowing experience of being a refugee. Because if a human being feels really stressed, you know, you feel like on a mission, as if.
Самое сложное было в моей профессии, я скажу. Самое сложное было верить в себя и в то, что в Польше я нужна именно как художник.
Najbardziej trudne wyzwanie było
What was the biggest challenge? It was to realize that I have to be able to believe in myself. My self-esteem has to remain high, both in my professional as well as personal life, because Poland needs experts in my realm of expertise.
Организовал доставку моих картин, эвакуацию моих картин с Харькова. Это была часть моей коллекции, 35 работ, которые были в тот момент перед войной на выставке.
Prawie by się dało tłumaczyć, ale prawie. So basically, I am so grateful to people who decided to take the risk and help me. I'm talking about Adam Doliński, helped me with organizing my exhibition. It came into being in Kharkiv, 35 paintings or masterpieces, my artistic works, and thanks to his effort, it was possible to organize my exhibition here. And my very first exhibition in Poland was organized here at the Reception Center for Refugees in Modlińska 6D Street. It was in Bemowo, the Center for Community East. That was another one. And I was fortunate enough to have my third exhibition organized as well here in Poland with the support of my Warsaw-based colleagues who helped me to organize my exhibition in the Centennial Hall in Wrocław. And as a part of my charity-based efforts, I work as a volunteer and I help refugees at each and every age, starting from children as well as adults. So I teach them how to draw. There is a culture center, Brzeska 19, as well as in the Ukrainian house. Yes, I must admit that at the beginning it was difficult to conduct classes with Polish-speaking students who were willing how to learn drawing, but I was full of enthusiasm because I continued to be certain that there is one thing, one common denominator that seems to be a connecting force, namely the language of art. And I strongly believe that it is by means of art that we are able to reconcile people and nations globally on their path towards peace. We also organized an artistic project by the name of Solar Wars with teenagers from Ukraine. And it was presented in the refugee center. I really appreciate the opportunity to work with a Polish colleague, Ewa Hołowienko. I am really grateful for our cooperation under the R project. Ciała Kobiet, Bodies of Women, again presented in the Centennial Hall. At the International Women Congress. The surname of this Polish artist sounds really in Ukrainian style. Was it by accident? I'm not sure. And right now, let's address the next speaker. What were the main challenges for you when you tried to continue your artistic career, also having others in mind requiring support? What was missing? What proved to be the major challenge for you? For me, the biggest challenge was to learn how to speak Polish. Frankly speaking, if you want to continue your professional career and fulfillment, you have to learn how to communicate, express yourself in the language of the hosting country. That's the foundation. But I'm so happy that right now I have received a certificate, a language certificate at the level of A1 when it comes to the Polish language. The second challenge that proved to be really big, I mean, it's about finding the right niche on the artistic market. What is that I'm really capable of? What will be needed? What I can do professionally so that it makes sense. So for me, this professional fulfillment was absolutely critical.
Я приїхала 2 мая, і донька приїхала пізніше, вже 14 липня, 4-го, через місяць. І
Chciałam powiedzieć, że kiedy
Let me also say that when I was coming here to Poland, it was quite spontaneous. I came here, and then a month later, my daughter came to me with my grandson. It was really difficult. So I remember the very beginnings here, my very first professional attempt in Poland. What mattered for me was not only to remain secure here in Warsaw, but also how to help those who are really in need. So basically, my moving here to Warsaw, it wasn't my utmost objective. I already started being involved in my professional issues, art. So I remember that I started painting here instantly, and I took all the paintings with me, took them to the Ukrainian house, the foundation, and I offered my paintings to be presented there so that I could support the community here to help people who are in need. And moreover, one of my paintings was purchased by Poles. I'm so happy that it was possible, because in this way I was able to collect some funds to support those who are really in need.
Ми з Надією, вона вже розказувала, приймали участь в проєкті пані Ели Головенко «Сила жінок». То дуже вдячні за той проєкт і за те, що мали нагоду спілкуватися разом, брати в ньому участь. І
Odnośnie pozytywnych rzeczy, Olena chciała powiedzieć.
When it comes to positive things, together with Nadia, we took part in a project El Honovenko. And I am really grateful for giving me this opportunity to harness the potential and find a sense of inspiration. It was the project entitled The Power of Women.
Складнощі, хотілося б зробити виставку українських ляльок, але для цього потрібно було приміщення, майстерня, тому що складно працювати, тобто для того, щоб зробити ляльки, потрібне приміщення. Але знайшла для себе, займаюся розписом і займаюся на даний час ілюстрацією в графічний дизайн.
A moje marzenie jest kiedyś.
My dream is to organize workshops in which I would be able to do what I love, to make Ukrainian-style dolls. For the time being, I focus on illustrations and various Ukrainian drawing techniques, but my dream is to organize an exhibition of Ukrainian dolls. Now, let us show the pieces of art made by our guests. We should mention a couple of factors. The language barrier that for sure affects the situation. Then secondly, this psychological aspect, the self-esteem, believing in one's possibilities. And thirdly, as Nadia said, the question of space, physical space, could be decisive, and it's not obvious that it's easy to find a space for exhibitions or space for creative work. So that's extremely important. Before we begin the Q&A session, you will be able to ask questions or comments. Let's make a short round about the institution perspectives. It's the year 2023. The war has not yet ended. We are active. We are facing difficulties and challenges. What about you? What about your perspective? What is lacking? What could be helpful in order to make the cooperation with Ukrainian artists better and easier, to help them even more? What could be useful, Michalina? Thank you. In my opinion, one of the crucial things that we need to face are financial limitations. And I suppose that we need long-term projects with broad support. At the same time, I think that taking into account that so many people came to Poland and they constitute 10% of our community, it should be reflected in our institutions. So in every institution, 10% of employees should be of Ukrainian origin. And I believe that every institution should have such a target to employ influencers and people from a certain community. In many cases, institutions organize events for Ukrainians or translate different materials into Ukrainian, but there are no people from Ukraine coming because they're not aware of that. So it's important to know who is a leader or an influencer of a given community and then contact such people and give them space for artistic work, for exhibitions, for workshops. And that's vitally important to me. And these people should be treated not as victims or refugees, but more as actors, as people who have certain knowledge, expertise, certain skills that could be shared with us and contribute to our institutions, teach us other things. So I think that this inclusion into already existing structures and sharing assets is really important. Another challenge would be divisions, identity-related problems. We should go beyond cultural wars and identity-based conflicts. We should build institutions that are both Polish and Ukrainian and Belarusian, maybe. That this is what we are trying to do. So that's my opinion about the challenges and needs. Great, thank you. Monika, what could you say on that? Well, it's hard to say anything else. My feelings are just the same. I have an impression that at the beginning of the war, many artists came to Poland and many artists also left Poland because cultural institutions, for instance, galleries in Poland, are in a difficult economic situations. They are not able to hire people on constant basis. We need stability. This is important for us. We don't want any temporal contracts. The residences are terribly short. To the moment, our practice was 3 residences per year, and every residency would last a month or a month and a half. Residency with granting a place to live and the amount of 3,000 or 3,500 Polish zlotys, which is below the national average. Last year, together with the Goethe Institute, Vlada Rauko and Władimir Butnikov were residing for 6 weeks. We were hosting them, and they were in a very good financial situation and housing situation. They work compulsively, so they did a huge exhibition with new works. But continuing with their example, they have been for a year and a half in the residential system. 6 weeks in Berlin, 6 weeks in Białystok, 3 months somewhere in the suburbs of Berlin, 2 months in Poznań. They never know where they will be located next month. They are constantly moving, so I'm like a contact box for them. I'm looking for possibilities, and they are getting more and more limited. When the war broke out, I called different cultural institutions, asking them who was able to accept Ukrainian artists as residents. And the majority of my colleagues declared such a possibility, but for a month, however, 18 months have already passed, and these institutions do not have funds to guarantee anything that would be constant, permanent, stable. We have no idea when the war will end. So in this war mode, a 6-month residency could give a feeling of safety. In general, I think that money from different sources should follow the refugee and not be consumed by institutions. And I'm convinced that's the reality from time to time, that the money goes to institutions, and half of that money, for instance, okay, I will give this example. There is a cultural institution organizing activities for children. And within the scope of cooperation with Ukraine, in that refugee system, they hire a teacher from Ukraine to give piano lessons, and they offer free piano lessons for children, and they also bought a piano. The contract of the teacher was for 12 months, 1-year program. This very year, so this year there is financing, huge financing. However, there is no certainty about the possible continuation next year. We all live like in the perspective of 12 months. At the end of December, we have no idea what is about to happen. And the Ukrainian refugees should have a feeling of stability. So the teacher told me, I have my contract until December, and after that, I have no idea. We would need some lobbying groups to lobby in different areas. My imagination is limited. I don't know what else I could do. At the 8th grade of primary school, children from Ukraine, they have examinations, final exams to access the secondary school. And the system is exactly the same as for Polish children. So let's imagine a girl with very good notes from biology, English, and something else. She needs to pass an exam from the Polish language. So she has like 1 year to dominate the Polish language, to become fluent. How is it possible? So there is a number of situations in which we know that it might be very different. There are many threats at schools, and I really doubt that there is a psychologist to help effectively. That's what's coming to my mind spontaneously. For sure, what you mentioned, I mean that for us as institutions, what we need is someone from the Ukrainian community to coordinate our actions, to make us aware about the needs. And it has to be someone, let's say, permanent. It's not enough just from time to time to give an order to provide a work. Thank you very much. These are extremely important aspects that you mentioned. I would also add this tiredness in helping, in facing the reality, facing the problems, cultural, psychological problems, etc. And now we would like to know the German perspective.
Biggest challenges, opportunities in cooperation, in continuing cooperation with Ukrainian refugees.
Yeah, so I can only agree to my fellow colleagues, because the same for Germany, of course, mid or long-term perspectives for Ukrainian cultural actors are super rare. There are some different projects running parallel, and sometimes I also feel the lack of connecting the different organizations with each other so they can actually join their forces, which is in many cases also related to the project-funded programs or the money that is funding these different projects. So it's not so easy to connect them. We are happy at Goethe Institute that we can continue some of the programs I've just mentioned, because we will get some supplementary fund from German Foreign Ministry for this year as well. So not in the same amount as last year, but we will be able to, for example, continue with the stabilization fund, supporting Ukrainian organizations and organizations abroad. We also have a big EU program running already for years, which is called House of Europe, led by Goethe Institute Ukraine as well, and they also can continuing some kind of war response packages for individual stipends, organization support. However, for Germany, I also feel a big problem or a risk in people losing interest in the topic, or people are tired of the topic of Ukraine. It's kind of a sad routine that you read the news every day and you do not even you're not emotionally capable anymore to actually feel what this means like. So I think for us it's also very important to keep the awareness high, to still put the topics into different panel discussions, exhibitions, organizations, to make clear that it's not over, not at all. I mean, Kiev is being bombed these days all over again, and to actually still raise the awareness that this is not an Ukrainian-Russian war outside of our world. It actually affects whole Europe. It is extremely important to still keep going, to show resistance, resilience, and also support. And it will not end without the support or the people in Germany closing their eyes. So I think for us as a German institution working in between Ukraine and Germany, it's the most important thing this year to actually keep this awareness high and to also fight against Russian propaganda, which is extremely high or extremely visible in Germany still. So I think there is a lot to do still, and I really hope that all the organizations that have been working with Ukrainian artists and cultural scenes in the last year, that they keep on going, even though I know that German organizations usually have a long-term planning, so they are not that flexible to introduce new programs quite quickly or to invite new ideas, because sometimes they have been doing their program for already 1 year ago. So I'm quite happy that many organizations did, and they even were so flexible to change their schedules that they are still doing something. But there is also still a big part organization-wise, but also in the population that still is not as interested as I would like them to be. And I think the main issue is also to reach people around above this Ukrainian bubble that are already very interested and already very much supportive. So this is, in my case, the big challenge for 2023.
Thank you very much. Your perspective and activities gives us a lot of hope. Thank you very much. Drodzy Państwo, teraz jest ten
ladies and gentlemen, right now the time has come for our Q&A session. This is the right moment to express your comments, share your thoughts. We have a microphone, so you can address questions to our speakers, but also our speakers are free to address other speakers. After all, it's supposed to be a debate. Please use this opportunity. We have artists here sitting at the table. We have activists present here. I can see the first volunteer, the first hand in the air. I would like to address my question to all of you present here, both artists as well as those of you who run galleries. Is there any difference when it comes to the reception of Ukrainian artists who came here to Poland once the war escalated last year? So, I'm talking about the difference between the audience in Ukraine and the audience here in Poland, because I could risk a statement that we are a slightly different target groups when it comes to receiving your art. Oh, this is really an exquisite question. I believe that my works, my paintings are accepted everywhere, and there is no difference whatsoever. There are no stark contrasts when it comes to the way my art is received or perceived, because I believe that I create in one universal language, namely the language of art and higher good. So it is always universal. That's why I believe it's all very positive, and I can't feel any difference. I believe it's the same. I can't feel any difference, really. We can't say that there is any critical difference when it comes to accepting or not accepting art. Both Poles and Ukrainians accept my art. I enjoy drawing flowers, and flowers are always inevitably beautiful. They are accepted everywhere, so I can't say that there are any differences. I believe that my art is received very positively. What about your perspective? Because it is slightly different when you attend an exhibition or when you see people attending a given exhibition. Is there any difference in reception? At the beginning, I would like to ask you the following. It just occurred to me. What about your work that you create? Has it changed after the war? Does it have to tell the story on your experiences, the experience of war? Sometimes we expect from refugees that they will focus only on this very specific aspect of their life. It just seems to be very interesting. Yes, it is interesting. We will move on to the answer, but could you first and foremost reply to my question? Okay, so I will hand the mic over to you. Yes, I think there is some kind of a difference, but maybe it's just my imagination. It's all in my head, and I'm not sure if it's really precisely an answer to your question. Recently, I was preparing an exhibition from the archives of our collection, only Ukrainian artists. The title was Radical Hope. And we had quite a sizable group of refugees, women from Ukraine, who attended the exhibition. And the way they reacted, it really just touched my heart. It was so emotional. Obviously, I understand that emotions were running high because, after all, it was Ukrainian art, and it goes without saying that they really miss their country, motherland, being in touch with it. But they were really full of emotions, asking all the right questions. They were living and breathing all the art. So it seems to me that this reflection was somewhat deeper. But also, let's consider the other perspective, namely working with the artists themselves. For a long time now, for many years, what I seem to think is, and whenever I contact any Ukrainian artist, it only confirms my beliefs, the quality of discourse in Ukraine is so much deeper, uncompromising. Whenever I talk to any Ukrainian artists, they are never ready to take any shortcuts. When they analyze the past, it's only to draw some vital conclusions for the future. And this is something that is practically non-existent in Polish art. They are even ready to just quarrel, dispute with one another, but for a good cause. They are uncompromising. They are not ready to take any shortcuts. They just want to generate the best possible result. They are able to discuss openly all kinds of things. Sometimes they accuse others of, being not really consistent. It's a brand new quality.
Of Germans by Ukrainian art and Ukrainian culture overall.
I mean, I cannot speak as because I'm not running an art gallery or something. I just can speak like in a personal way. I sometimes feel a little sad that, of course, the German audience now gets to know the Ukrainian art just in the framework of the war, because, as I already said before, there was few knowledge about Ukrainian art and artists before 2022. And so only a small group of people, of course, would know the names, the artists. And, of course, every exhibition, every program you see now, you always see in the framework of the war. So even if there is some works before before the war are presented, you always see them with the framework of what is happening now. And for me, sometimes I feel very sad about that, because I always remember when I came to Kiev in 2021, I was so touched and impressed by the very lively art scene, especially with visual arts. And I would go to every small exhibition and every small cultural center, and the quality in most or almost every of these places were so high that I was thinking the German audience really should see this art. And of course now you cannot present the ideas that are there before without speaking of the war, and sometimes I feel sad about it. However, as sad as it is, I'm glad that the German audience finally came across Ukrainian culture and Ukrainian art. And I also see that there is a lot of cooperations between German and Ukrainian artists now, because I think also German artists realize that the way of thinking, the quality of work is so high that it really makes sense to continuing working together.
Thank you very much for this answer. And now, Pani Michalina.
Tak, ja pomyślałam, że mogę opowiedzieć.
It just dawned on me that maybe I can use the example of the exhibition of Vasyl Yach to discuss the issue, because we had a lot of Ukrainian audience coming to the exhibition, and also I talked to a lot of Poles. Because I was a guide around the exhibition back then. We heard from a lot of senior citizens attending the exhibition, and the curators really wanted the exhibition to be presented on our premises, Staromiejski Dom Kultury, given the entire context of the location, because the entire old town was bombarded, almost like leveled. And a lot of senior citizens basically claim that they have a sense of common experience with the Ukrainian nation. The history went full circle, basically. So when we were looking at Vasyl's paintings, we could see some references to, let's say, Andrzej Wróblewski. We didn't discuss it with the author, but these are the signs, the symbols already present in the culture as such. So using the example, I can say that there is this communality of experience, history, empire, Russian colonialism that we both as nations share, and it can be expressed by art. It is intelligible on this visual level for both nations. So the Polish recipient, Polish audience basically are perfectly capable of understanding Ukrainian art. Let's return to our Ukrainian artists, our distinguished guests. What about your work, your art? Has it changed in the aftermath of war? Is there an expectation that you have to continue to talk about war and create all kinds of works dedicated to this war-related topic? Oh, this is a very difficult question. Me, being an artist, I often asked myself, when I was just starting out, when it comes to my artistic professional career, I was starting out at a more advanced age. I was quite a mature person. The main predominant topic that I always intended to focus on and share with human beings is our human desire for something greater, glorious, peace, dream, something glorious. So I always try to focus on what is really best in human beings as well as our national traditions. Why national traditions and customs? Because customs, culture, this is absolutely fundamental in the process of shaping our identity. And for instance, in my works, you can see that I use dance as a way of identifying our Ukrainian identity. This is what I was driving at. This was my intention. And when the war broke out, I had to make a choice. Which is the direction that I'm going to take artistically? And I understood that I don't want to discuss the horror of war anymore. Because I am absolutely sure that after the war there will be a brand new next generation of people and we will enjoy peace. And this is what I want to discuss in my art. And these are exactly the values that are critical in bringing up our children, the next generation. This should be our legacy for the generations to come. I can perfectly understand the artists that talk about war in their art. They are also needed. Personally, I focus only and exclusively on future, the philosophy of future. Hence, I try to move aside from the topic of war in a very informed way.
Те, що я давно хотіла, навіть не розуміла того.
Chciałabym przyznać się, że po wojnie
I need to say that my professional development after the war has been completely different. I'm doing things that previously I wanted to implement, but I couldn't. Something of value for the society. I need to say that previously I was spending a lot of time in the countryside, and I received a lot of positive feedback. I also remember my childhood that was very happy. The Petrikivska techniques is one of the most characteristic for my homeland and for my region. So it was a pleasure for me to be able to draw flowers and nature, because it's close to my heart and to my perception of the world. What's next? Well, the foundation for a drawing in the Petrikivka technique is simply white background. So I would like the future for all the people to be white, and what will appear on this white sheet of paper should be something positive. And this, I support Nadia to also show the people the warmth and optimistic perspective, not only the war. I wouldn't like to elaborate on the topic of war. Ladies and gentlemen, do we have any other questions or comments? I can see a hand raised. I'm also an artist, a refugee from Ukraine. I live in the city of Łódź, and there have been many exhibitions already organized in the city of Łódź in central Poland. But about my perspective, the galleries really expect me to talk about the war, so we feel obliged to talk about the war. If there is a project that is completely non-related to war, then we are asked why. But we see different things. The war is, of course, it is present in our lives, but we need also to think forward, to think about the future. But yeah, I must admit, this is truth that the galleries expect us to tell us about our experiences in living here and now, about our pains, our emotions, the difficulties we needed to overcome as a consequence of the war. But I think that it's already changing a bit. And as Nadia said, we want to see something better. We cannot be, stuck mentally in the war and think all the time about the war. So I think that all the artists from Ukraine, we can see a bright future for Ukraine and for Poland. And we are very grateful. Poland has shown itself as a very open country to artists. And there are many Ukrainian artists in Poland. And sometimes there is a difference between young artists and, let's say, middle-aged artists. In Ukraine, the young artists, they hear many opinions that, okay, you still need to learn a lot to be able to participate in an exhibition. In Poland, it's different. In Poland, we've got many opportunities. In the city of Łódź, I already did 3 exhibitions at the municipal hall, and I was invited by numerous galleries in the city of Łódź. And I remember the first gallery that contacted me, they told me something like, okay, it's a great project, let's do it. Everything will be organized. And once the exhibition was inaugurated, they told us something, okay, I really like your paintings, we could sell them, but you know what? You need to pay us for some organizational expenses. So that was a difficult experience for me. However, it also gave me an opportunity to meet people, an opportunity for networking, and many people showed me friendliness. I also got a scholarship from the National Institute of Dance and Music, if I remember correctly. I really enjoyed that because it was a 3-month scholarship, and I'm really grateful for that. 1 month is not enough. If you're an artist, if you have a child and you need to go to this city, to another city, it's difficult. But I was always willing to be active. I arrived here with just a few things, and a child. A year has passed, and I've already organized many exhibitions. So very grateful to Poland being so open. I'm really grateful to people, and I'm grateful to you. You are fighting for us and together with us. Thank you. Don't thank us so much, please, because I think that we are getting the benefits of that, because you arrive here, you give us your art, intellectual possibilities, not mentioning the fact that you are fighting against Russia, you are fighting for a better world. So if we've got a chance to help you a bit, we should feel grateful. Thanks for sharing that story. It's important that artists want to tell about things not always related to the war. Thanks for mentioning that. I can see another hand raised. You speak Ukrainian. Are you from Ukraine? Yes, I'm from Ukraine. Could you please translate? I'm also from Ukraine. I'm Ukrainian, and I arrived here to Poland last year, and I joined the Kulczyk Foundation. And then for a couple of months, I was assisted by another girl. I got my CV prepared in Polish, so now I'm hired in the foundation and involved in my work and realizing my potential. Before 2022, 1 year before, I graduated from the Pinchuk Art Center. For Ukrainian children. And when I moved to Warsaw, I joined the Kulczyk Foundation, and I wanted to organize workshop, but all the children went to school. Only some girls were still at the foundation, and together with them I could just make my dreams come true. I'd like to say that when the children went to school together with the older girls and with the younger, were trying to learn many things, to develop. We went through different topics: European art, classic art, both Ukrainian and Polish. But most interestingly, During our meetings, we were talking about the war, and we wanted to talk it through from an artistic perspective. It's also interesting that we were discussing about Marevich works, how they were understood or interpreted by them, if they were accepted by them, and what was their opinion. We also discussed about Ukrainian identity in the context of the next 100 years. I would like to mention 3 topics we discussed. Let's leave the topic of the war apart, and the second topic, the woman and the child. I was involved in a very interesting project linking Polish and Ukrainian children. What did you say about Belarus? There is a foundation, STUS Foundation, working with refugees and trying to support them, helping with their psychological trauma after moving to Poland by the people who escaped. And I got lost, sorry. This project was called the City of Architecture, and we ran a debate about the perception of the space. Most interestingly, we were creating this city from litter, from paper boxes, in the form of architecture, and children were participating. Yeah, that was great. In order to believe in the good and in the optimistic world, we were analyzing the topic of war during the workshops. And, you know, if something seems not necessary, then we can find a new application, a new use. So, dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, organizers, many thanks to all of you. Some of the questions were difficult, painful, but also very inspiring and giving hope. Thank you for sharing your stories. I think that we will be empowered right now. We'll be inspired, we're full of new ideas and ready to strengthen our cooperation.